Okay, so many questions on that. So firstly, the craft, it's actually really funny because we always did, it was like two fingers underneath, wasn't it? Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Yep,
And the
yep.
amount of times that we tried that and it never actually really worked. But was there ever a time, not necessarily that, but has there ever been a time you've done something where something weird, like a Ouija board or something's happened where you've been like, there's spirits here for sure?
So the very first time that again, I feel like it was always me. This is the first time as well that I realized that there's certain things that you shouldn't play with. We were on a school trip, again, year nine, so it was still the craft era. Maybe we were a bit older anyway. So we'd gone to France. We'd actually gone to the World War II trip, gone to the Somme and all of that. And we were in the room, the dormitory, and I was like, let's do a Ouija board. So we did. And I can't remember what, like, obviously we were all screaming, and was someone pushing the glass? Who knows? But the next day, sorry, when we were doing the Ouija board, it kept going. There was a girl called Claire. I haven't actually seen her since we left school. And the letter C, it was going to C, and we were just like, so Claire freaked out and we stopped. The next day when we went to the water park, and she actually slipped on one of the water slides and knocked her front teeth out. And we were all like, oh my God. And I was like, that was the Ouija board. That was the board that did it. And I just knew that that was the board. And I was like, we not messing in this again.
Never again.
But and it was too much. And even now, as an adult, I'm like, right, that was a sign that was telling me don't do it with the wrong intentions, because we were kids. We were wanting to conjure up something, scare ourselves. It kept the letter C. I can just remember it was all on scrappy bits of paper. And then that happened the next day. And I was behind her. So she was in like the water. She slipped, smacked her teeth. And I can just remember she lifted her head up. Her mouth was pouring the blood. And she had a big tooth in her hand. And I was like, oh my God. And I had to follow her down the slide. And it was just like a trail of blood. And even then, I remember thinking, that was the board. We were messing about with stuff that we shouldn't mess about with.
I've
Like,
heard
it,
crazy stories about the Ouija board, and I'm like, I've never been there, but it's just madness, some
yeah,
of the stuff that you hear. I've never tried it for that reason. I'm like, I'm not even tempting fate here.
you need to, if you're going through spirits, it has to be with the
Pure.
right intention. Yeah, not going in to, just connect. And at the moment, I'm actually working on my channel muscle, my intuitive muscle, to do that anyway. So if you have that more, I believe everyone can do it. You just have to tap into it. So if you're wanting to tap into, you don't need the board. You can just tap tap in and channel anyway. You don't have to use the board. I think again the board came hundreds of years ago of people trying to play, but if you do it with malintention and you're messing about, and if you believe it, then you're gonna bring something in that you shouldn't if you don't do it in the right way.
That's a whole other thing. I'm reading
Yeah.
a book a book and it's Shaman Healer Sage and it's talking about entities attaching themselves. So I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
But to get back on track, I was about this podcast in a way for you to give advice to enhance or to embrace your inner witch. And so you're talking about witch wounds. So for somebody
Mm.
who is listening to this and just thinking, what are they talking about? Like, what is a witch wound and how is this relevant to me? Can you make that a bit
Yeah.
clearer for them?
Yeah. So witch wound is kind of like ancestral trauma, and I know that's kind of a buzzword at the moment. Like everyone's, healing trauma from their ancestors. But the witch wound is, I call it more of a hangover because that resonates with me more than trauma. So it's the hangover of those witch times. So as modern women, we're living in the hangover of having to protect yourself against other women. So back then, if you were like the medicine woman, and again, if they came knocking on your door, and they were saying, she's a witch next door on about me, if you tell us that she is, if you admit that she is, then you're going to be safe. So of course you're going to say, yes, she is, to protect yourself. So this is where that distrust. So these days, it's more of a distrust of women, and we still have women that say, "Oh, I get on better with men," and women find it hard to make friends with women sometimes because of this witch wound. We don't want to let our guard down. We will look at women and judge them from face value without getting to know them, without getting to know their souls. But again, this is because we were separated all of those years ago. We were told that we're not together, we're not to have friends, we're not to gossip, we're not to trust each other, because literally we'll have to throw each other under the bus to protect ourselves. And we still live in that way now. And the patriarchy as well back then, and even now to some extent, there's like TV shows like what is it, the American one where there's the guy and there's the women and they're fighting to be the one that he picks. The Eligible Bachelor, is that what it was called? And again, do you know what I mean? But that was literally the witch wound in a microcosm of, there's the patriarchy. All of these one women want to potentially be with this one guy. Let's pit them all against each other. And it was putting them in, and you may as well just said, right, argue with each other, hate each other, pick each other's insecurities up, and just go with it, which is what the TV show is. Judge each other, compare yourselves to each other, look at the other beautiful women, see how beautiful she is, and make yourself feel like crap. That is literally the witch wound in that microcosm of that program, but we're living that every day. And through social media, even the stories that we see of women in the news, she's put weight on, in celebrities, she's fat, she's thin, she's old. Look at the stories about Sarah Jessica Parker. She's in her 50s. So many stories come out of her. I think she might be nearly 60 now. She's old, but even her herself, like, what do you want me to do? Stop aging. And they pick up on things, and it's, nitpicking. This is all living within the witch wound. And I was reading something the other day by another witch online, and she said, waking up tomorrow without being in the trauma of the witch wound. So if we woke up tomorrow hangover free of the witch wound, we wouldn't look in the mirror and judge our own bodies. We would love everything that we saw. We wouldn't think, oh my God, look at that spot today, or do I look fat, or I hate my boobs in this top, or I can't get these jeans on, and I've got this muffin top. We wouldn't have any of that going on. We then wouldn't walk out the front door and see the neighbor who looked beautiful that day and go, oh God, she looks so beautiful, but not in a, oh my God, amazing, she's beautiful, in a, now I feel even more like crap. And then maybe nitpicking something, oh yeah, she might look like that, but she's got crap traits, she's wearing crap shoes, like shoes are from Primark, or she's got a crap car, or I know that her boyfriend's cheated on her, and we could just go through the day taking out so many scenarios that wouldn't exist if we weren't living in this hangover. We would see other women and smile, and we wouldn't think, why is she smiling at me? If another woman made eye contact, it would be a, morning sister, like, we're in this together, instead of, why is she looking at me? Like, when we instantly could get our backs up, but like, why is she staring at me? Like, and then if two women start talking, what are they saying about me? All of this is witch wound that we're unaware of. And it's tuning in to when you feel that you're doing that, learning to love other women. So stopping yourself if you start to judge, going back in your life and thinking, where have you allowed the witch wound to maybe ruin friendships, or not even have friendships because you judge someone straight away, don't like her because of something that she said or something that she's worn, or you feel belittled by her because she's so beautiful, so you're not friends with her because she's beautiful. or you feel that jealousy. Jealousy is something that it's within us, and it's like a little virus that can overcome us and again ruin these beautiful friendships that we could have with women. So it's acknowledging all of those and thinking, right, okay, I'm going to step into reclaiming the witch. I'm reclaiming it now, and I'm going to stop myself when I feel those things happening. And not only is it working through the witch wound, but it also is a better and more enjoyable way to live. So whether or not you want to reclaim being a witch, or you just want to heal your relationships with other women, because when women get together and there's none of that, so much powerful stuff can happen. Like, we met on that retreat. There was none of that on the retreat because we were all women on the same level. Imagine just having your life going through and every woman is on the same level as you. Like, what a beauty. The world would be such a different place for women. Even better if then women could be in charge of the world. There would be, but again, the way that women work is it's creative, it's loving, it's nurturing. I really believe there wouldn't be any war. There wouldn't be any need for war, because we would sit down and we would talk about it. We wouldn't just, go and start a war and try and take someone's land. It would be a conversation, so it's,
Yeah. I think as well, like even listening to all of that, I definitely was that person when I was younger. And I've always, as I've went on the journey that I'm on, I've always kind of tried to reflect on these things. And that's been one of the biggest things for me, because when I would talk about someone, or if I was horrible to someone, it would mostly come from a place of jealousy. They have something that I want, whether it's the attention from someone, or they've got nice clothes, or they're talking to the boy that you fancy, something like that. There would always be a reason, more on a jealous scale, to almost, like you say, nitpick them. And I think as you start to become aware of the behaviors, and you start to, like you say, almost reprogram, because it comes from a place of not feeling safe. Because, like you say, our bodies hold on to these memories, these ancestral memories, where to be yourself and live the way that you want, if that's outside the norm, then you're killed. You're quite literally killed. You're not imprisoned. You get burnt at a stake. So automatically the body does what it knows best, and it tries to keep you safe. So it's also reminding yourself you're safe to take the action that you want to take.
Yeah, that's so true. And just having just reminding yourself that, right, this is okay, and I can do this. I will be supported. And that can go for anything as well. So it could be, if you're looking, so for example, starting the podcast, sitting on, and I think you were the same as well. I was sat on the idea for about a year. I want to do a podcast. I want to do a podcast. I want to do a podcast. But it's that fear of the self-worth and thinking, right, my voice isn't important enough to be heard, and it's keeping your voice then small. That could be reminiscent of your witch wound, that you were told once to be quiet, stop talking, don't share your voice. And again, we're living in that hangover of it. And it's having then those conversations with yourself to step out of that and take that first step. It could be anything. Anyone listening to this thinking that they want a promotion, they want a pay rise, they want to start a relationship, leave a relationship, really pinning down on, okay, how am I blocking myself from doing this? What is my belief? And when we whittle it down, a lot of the time it is us. We will try to blame other people of, oh, I can't do this because they're, whatever the finish the sentence. But we really need to see, right, this is me stopping myself because this is how I feel. This is my belief. And then flipping that belief. And if you can then pinpoint it as, okay, this, even just label it. I call those thoughts and those beliefs my inner witch hunter. So that helps me to just like, that's my inner witch hunter telling me to stop. That's my inner witch hunter telling me not to do that. And that's just having that label for it. So it's my witch hunter, you know, and I can see a little guy with an axe that chasing me, and I'm just like, no, you're not doing that today. And, you know, quietening him. And that really helps me as well. So just taking a moment and think, right, just write it down. Like, what's your spell? What are you trying to do? What do you want to achieve? And how are you stopping yourself? What are those beliefs? What's that witch hunter saying to you? And how can you change that? So it doesn't always have to be, you know, manifesting money. It can be absolutely anything, everything that women are trying to do.
It's funny because ever since, I mean, I feel like I've worked on the witch wound in terms of relationships with other women for a long time, and I've not been in that jealous headspace, you know, for years and years and years. I think I've been doing this work since what, 2011. So anywhere from that point. But Portugal really, I don't know, there was just something about Portugal for me. I've never been in a space for that amount of time with only women who are on the same wavelength as me. And that's, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. It's just, you know, you guys are very much into the things that I'm into as well. And when we all collectively came together, there was just energy in Portugal that was like nothing else. And it felt so supportive. You know, like I genuinely felt that if when I left Portugal, if something went wrong, I could phone any single person that we spent that week with, and they would be there to help me one way or other. It was also you that really got me starting this podcast because you obviously had yours, and I was a guest on yours, and you were like, go on, you can do it, you can do it," giving me everything that I possibly needed. Like, if you can just find women to link arms with, so much can happen for you, but also for the collective. So
Yeah.
we're almost at the end of this, so I do want to leave it with kind of some actionable steps from you.
Yeah.
So if somebody was looking to embrace their inner witch in a easy enough, simple, step-by-step way, how would you say to do that? Even like 3 points of like how to embrace your
Yeah.
inner witch.
So I think first, just keeping it really simple is to just tune into her. Just if you meditate, just like, right, okay, I'm reclaiming this part of me. So we're labeling her your witch, your magic, your most fantastic, highest self. So connecting with her first. So who is she? What does she look like? What does she wear? And you can do that through meditation and then just write it. You know, you don't have to write it down, but I write it down just so it's there. And she changes sometimes. So connecting with her first, what version of you? And that's generally the version of you that you can get to. Then I would definitely say once you've got that version of working on, like you've just said, the relationships you have with women in your life, because that is one of the catalysts of growth. And it might be that you realize that you have to let some women go. You know, it doesn't have to be an awkward sit down conversation of we're not going to be friends anymore. You just protect your boundaries there. You know, when I've spoke about this before, like, oh my God, I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. You just, you know, spend less time with them. So if there's people that you feel that are heightening your witch wound, so, you know, maybe they gossip a little bit too much and you makes you feel uncomfortable. So I, you know, have friends that I've slowly moved away from because I felt like, no, this isn't right for me anymore. I don't want to put myself in. So having a look at the women around you, maybe letting some go, but then that also means that you will attract more because your vibration will be high. And the last one, I would say learning. I know that's really boring, but
Joanne used to be a teacher.
yeah, I know. That's the teacher side. But, you know, connect with yourself, have a look at the people around you, but then just start to learn and enjoy because that's when it will grow. So for me, once I started, and if you're listening to this, you already probably have that seed planted and you're interested in, if you've got this far through the podcast, that you have that interest and you're like, yeah, that sounds like a bit of me. That sounds like something I need to do. Just go away and just start to learn. I started simply. I just started learning about how to follow the moon, and you will naturally just find your own path, because what I've explained today is my path. Jen's got her path. So learn, understand, and follow your path. You might find that you're a kitchen witch, and I've said I'm green witch, garden witch, nature witch. There's so many different things that you might resonate with, and yeah, just learn about the history, find where that fits with you, learn about the types of witches, and then just keep learning. And it's fun, not school history. Yeah, so find your inner witch, have a look at the witches that you want around you, and then just keep learning, find your path, because yeah, your magical
Well,
path.
I also just want to note, because we didn't even go into your story at the start, but Jo is basically teacher turned spiritual goddess.
Teacher turned witch.
So yeah, that's so exciting. So can you let everyone know what you do now, where they can find you, if they want to work with you in
Yeah.
any way?
So now I am a well-being consultant. So under that umbrella, I teach yoga, have my podcast, uh, podcasters on YouTube now, women's wealth, what am I? A mentor, women's wellness mentor, I was meant to say then. And I also work with essential oils, so essential oils expert and how they can support your health. You can find me on Instagram, Joanne_wealth, and same on YouTube, and same for the podcast. And then you'll obviously see. So there's lots of things under my little witchy umbrella, lots of magic that I can share with other, generally women. I generally work with women, so I can say that.
And your Instagram's so funny. I would just go and follow Jo right now, because some of the stuff you find on that, I'm like, what the
Oh yeah, the conspiracies. You can tell when I'm on a rabbit hole, because you'll
I
see
said
things
that to
popping
Gav.
up. Like,
I was showing Gav something that you put up. I said she'll be in a rabbit hole. I said she always finds something and then just keeps going with it until she can't get any further.
I have to get to the bottom. I think that's the witch in me, having to get all the information and get to the bottom of this. And most of the time I'm right. Just one last thing, the Kate Middleton, I was like, she's sick. She didn't want to announce it. Like, that's it. People just need to leave her alone. Like 48 hours later, that's what it was. Because I was like, where is she? And I nearly got into a rabbit hole for that. And I was like, no, she's sick. They're just not announcing it because she's young. So that was 2 weeks ago, rabbit hole. There is a new one, but we won't talk about that now.
That's for a different podcast. Jo, thank
Yeah.
you so much for spending
Thank
the last
you.
hour or so with us. I cannot thank you enough. Honestly, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll have to get you on again at some point. We can talk about
Yes,
the
yes.
feminista and you.
We can talk about conspiracies as well.
Oh, don't. I'll sit here just with my mouth open, like jaw wide, like, what? Anyway, thank you so much, my darling.
Conspiracy podcast. Thank you.
Bye, my darling.